Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 11 of the Me and ADHD podcast. I'm your host, Darren Cammack, and this is the podcast where I usually talk to some really lovely guests about their ADHD journeys. We talk about the challenges and the triumphs and everyday realities of life with either diagnosed or undiagnosed ADHD brain. But I'm going to be doing some solo episodes as well. Just some short ones, mainly because I've been so busy to organise and book guests and things. So that's all been sort of on the back seat a little bit. But over the past few months, I somehow managed to pull off creating and organising a new ADHD support group in the town where I live. Basically, because there's nothing here. Nothing here that organises regular in-person meetings so that there's a more constant and bonding experience. That's what I really sort of wanted. And to be honest, by doing this, I've had the pleasure of meeting and talking to a whole range of people. And some seriously nice people as well. Some really, really nice people. And we wouldn't have had the chance to have the conversations that we've already had, really, if the group wasn't there. So because of that, I'm going to dive into the topic that for me and for so many others is one of the most powerful tools in our ADHD toolkit. It's not a medication, it's not technically a therapy, but it can be just as life-changing. We're talking about peer-to-peer ADHD support groups. You know the feeling, you finally got the diagnosis. And there's a name for the chaos, the constant failure to remember anything, the missed appointments, the intense passions that fizzle out, and there's a sense of relief. But then you walk out into the world and you're still you. You still have to navigate a world that makes you feel alone. And feeling alone is rife in our ND neighborhood. You could try to explain to your partner, your friends, your boss. They might try to understand. Some will say things like, oh, I'm a bit forgetful too, or just try using a calendar. And you know that they mean well, they really do, but it doesn't quite hit the mark because they don't understand the why. They don't understand the feeling of your brain being a browser with 100 tabs open, all playing different music. This is where the magic of peer-to-peer support groups begin. It's about finding the people who don't need a translation. Let's break down why these groups are so absolutely integral to our support structure. First and foremost is a finally someone gets it moment. This is why I do the podcast. Not for the big viewing figures, which is a good job really, but to be able to connect and also give others the chance to have a voice for the first time. I'll never forget the first time I went to a support group meeting, and it was actually the one I set up. I was nervous, very nervous, full of imposter syndrome, thinking maybe I wasn't ADHD enough. Would anyone actually show up? This is ADHD after all. If you have listened to my podcast, you will know that I forget words and struggle to string a sentence together. Unless I've got everything written down in front of me, and if I can string a sentence together, I tend to waffle on and on and on. But I had to do this the way I approach my podcast. With my RSD in check, understanding my guests will struggle with showing up on time, if at all. Interrupting a conversation, not paying attention to what I'm saying and going off topic. But then again, this is also me as well, because we all have the same struggles in various different ways, various different intensities and frequencies. I began with a welcome, some basic housekeeping regarding the venue and some stats on ADHD. To my surprise and complete relief, the conversation just took off and was freely flowing nicely. And as we talked, the growing feeling of, oh, that's me. That's my Tuesday. Thank God I'm not the only one. It's almost tangible. In that meeting moment, years of feeling broken, lazy, or just plain weird started to melt away, not just from me, but from everybody. Even more than it did with the podcast for me, probably because it was an in person and with more people. For those of you who have not had to struggle for sometimes decades and had to mask 24/7 just to survive each day or explain your perceived failings to numerous teachers, bosses, friends, partners, family members, this type of validation is hugely important. It's the antidote to the shame that so many of us carry. It's the leap from thinking, what's wrong with me, to realizing, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. My brain is just wired differently, like everyone else in this room. You're not failed neurotypical. You're a perfectly valid neurodivergent person. But it goes much deeper than just feeling understood. These groups are a lifeline because finding support for us is extremely hard. Your clinic will tell you why you have struggled. A therapist is there to listen and give you structured strategies to follow. And these people can be amazing. Well, definitely in my case, my experience. But they won't tell you about the person who uses strict task-orientated routines in order to not get cognitive overload, or indeed what the hell cognitive overload is. They won't tell you about the person who, when alone, either sings out loud, I've locked it, I've locked it, I've locked it, or does a little dance when he locks the car door, helping to cement that action into his memory. Or why you may need to retreat to a quiet place because the noise has become too much. Yeah, that's all me. All me. In my group meetings, we've talked about body doubling, the idea that you can get a mountain of boring admin done, or hang up the washing just by having another person quietly working alongside you, or just sitting there doing something different. Even on a video call. Medication, the pros and cons and the false information out there, tricks to get your child to sleep, or at least in bed, the EHCP process, and so much more. It's a treasure trove of creative, practical, and sometimes wonderfully weird strategies that actually work for our brains and the brains of our little bundles of joy. This leads to, the next crucial point is building your advocacy armor. Living with ADHD means you constantly have to advocate for yourself. You have to ask for what you need, and that can be terrifying, especially if your self-esteem has taken a constant beating over the years. And then navigate those who question why you are asking for help, as you didn't need it before your diagnosis. Listening to stories in a support group builds your confidence. You hear about all the fine-tuning you can do to the generic suggestions you've read about or hear about. You hear from a parent who developed a new system with their partner for trying new things for their child. You hear real-life experiences of medication. You hear about how others have reframed the emotional dysregulation they see in their children. And you hear real people talking about how alone they have felt. How listening to others in the group has now kind of stopped this from happening. You hear things about the different ideas and the apps you can get and the things you can buy just to help you close your eyes and have some peace overnight. You get to understand why these things are happening, and it's not just happening to yourself. These stories aren't just stories, they are roadmaps. They give you the language and, more importantly, the courage to start asking for what you need. Because you're entitled to it. A few members of the group have said they didn't realize until now that certain struggles that they have were anything to do with their ADHD. But I realize we have all been in that position. We just didn't know anything. And it takes time to build up our knowledge. It really does, not just of ADHD, but living with ADHD. And more importantly, it's our own individual lives that we deal with. A support group can give you a better perspective. It can help build that armor. So you might be listening to this, perhaps out on a walk or on your commute to or from work, thinking, okay, Darren, I'm in. How do I find this magical place where we call a peer-to-peer support group? Well, you can start by looking at the websites, the major charities like ADHD UK or the ADHD Foundation. They often have directories of local affiliated groups you might find. You might find one right by your doorstep, I guess. But you can also look at certain social media sites for local support groups who may not have any affiliations, but have been set up purely by local ADHDers due to the lack of anything else. But don't limit yourself to just physical meetings. The online world has been a revolution for support. There are moderated Facebook groups, Discord servers, and online forums that are active 24/7. And this is incredible if you have social anxiety, have mobility issues, or if your ADHD brain suddenly needs to connect with someone who gets it at 2 a.m. Some advice though, find a group that is well moderated and has a well-rounded and constructive support. It should have clear rules about respect, confidentiality, and not giving direct medical advice, because we're not trained to do so. Venting is fine, and it is needed. Gotta be honest, it is needed. But we also need a group that will help us to move forward and navigate the ADHD world more effectively. And it needs to be a safe place for everyone. Absolutely. My number one priority is a safe place. So make sure that it's a healthy place for you to be in. We are all different, so what fits one person may not fit another. And if you feel it's not the right fit for you, then find a different group. Absolutely. The goal is knowledge, increased self-awareness, and empowerment, but not a shared echo chamber of frustration. So, like I said, it's good to vent, but it's more important to look at strategies and way forward to improve your life. Or maybe do what I did. Start your own. A peer support group isn't just a nice to have. For so many of us, it's an absolutely essential part of our support structure, right alongside diagnosis, therapy, coaching, and medication. For many, it's the safest of places where you are seen and understood and without judgment. It's a living library of signposts, strategies, and tools to make your life better. And it's where we can build the confidence to go out and reshape the world around us, instead of always trying to force ourselves to mask and fit the world that, quite frankly, is not prepared for us. It's where you can find your tribe. And in a world that can feel isolating and lonely for so many of us, finding a tribe, finding your tribe, is everything. I have found my tribe, and they are an amazing group of individuals with incredible stories to share, as well as honest and heartfelt support for other members. As always, be good, be kind, and remember, you're not alone.